Good morning, everybody, as we go to the Chitas of today, holding in the portion of Azinu. Today is Friday. We're holding the sixth reading in that portion, holding on chapter 32, verse number 40. Yesel Shemaim Yodi. I raise my hand to heaven to swear. V'amarti Chai Anochi La'olam, as surely as I live forever. Now she says, Yesel Shemaim Yodi. In my anger, I so to say, raise my hand to myself in an oath. This is a expression of a vow. I swear as I live forever. That I will sharpen the blade of my sword, so that it glistens with my light, with the lightning. And my hand, I will take hold my attribute of judgment. I'll execute vengeance on my adversaries, and pray those nations who cause others to hate me by denying me. Now she says, that I will sharpen my blade of my sword, similar to what it says, so that it will glint, it will have a glint. Because when you sharpen, it becomes shiny. Corners become shiny. By dismissing my attribute of mercy, which I employ, I will take hold of, and my hand will take hold of judgment, is by dismissing my attribute, of mercy, which I employ only until now towards my enemies who harm you. For I've been only a little angry with you. They intensified your persecution, adding evil beyond what I required. Another explanation, my hand will take hold of the attribute of judgment, holding fast to it in order to take vengeance. Ashav Nakim, in Agada, our rabbis learn for the following from the wording of the verse, meaning the fact that it says, that the qualities of the Holy One, blessed be He, are not like those of a human being. When a human being fires an arrow, he's unable to retrieve it. But the Holy One, blessed be He, fires his arrows, he's able to retrieve it them. As we're still holding them, because he can just grab it. He can grab it because it's still in his power. For the arrow his arrow is lightning, as it says, the lightning of my sword, and my hand will hold judgment. In these cases, judgment denotes punishment. I will make my arrows drunk with the blood of the enemies, and my sword will devour their flesh. From the blood of the slain, the captives of Israel. From the first breach that the enemy made in your security. Rashi says, the enemies of the Jews. My sword will devour their flesh. From the blood of the slain and the captive, the punishment will befall them for the sins of the shedding of the blood of the Jewish people, and taking the captives whom they capture from them, from the Jews. From the first breaches of the enemy, for the crime of the initial enemy attack. When the Holy One, blessed be, exacts punishment from the nations, He takes account of their sins and the sins of their ancestors, from the time they began to attack the Jewish people and thereby make Israel vulnerable to further attack. Verse 43, Aninu goyim ami. Nations, praise God regarding his people. Kidam avodav yikev, because he will avenge the blood of his servants, of the Jewish people. Menakum yashiv l'tzayda. He will take vengeance on his adversaries. V'chiper admosei amai, and appease his land by appeasing his people for their suffering. Now she says at the time the nations will praise Israel, saying, see how great is the praise of this nation, who has who has held on to the Holy One, blessed be he, throughout the hardships that have befallen them, not forsaking him, when they recognize his goodness and his praises. Idam avodav yikim, for he'll avenge the blood of his servants, the shedding of their blood, as little sense of it that implies. Vidam yashiv l'tzayra, for their robbery and their violence, as it says, Egypt will become desolate, and Edom will be desolate as the wilderness, for their violence against the descendants of Yehuda. As it says, for your violence against your brother Jacob, you'll be cut off forever. And God will appease his land, the Jewish people, meaning he will please his land and his people for the miseries that they underwent and for what their enemies did to them. The chiper denotes reconciliation, appeasement, as it says, achat praponav, which means I will calm his anger. That means God's going to ultimately appease us. Chiper admose, he appeases his land. And what is it? His land, his people. And when his people, and when the people are comforted, his land is also comforted. Similarly, it says, God, you appease your land, and how have you appeased your land? You're brought back to exiles of Jacob. This passage is expounded as Sifri and varying interpretations, with Rabbi Yehuda and Nechemiah disputing regarding the meaning. Rabbi Yehuda expounds it as referring entirely to Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Nechemiah expounds it as entirely referring to the nations. Rabbi Yehuda expounds it referring to Israel as follows. I would have said I would abandon them, as explained above, until, and it's not God who has done all this, for they are the nations bereft of counsel, meaning they have lost the Torah, and which is fitting counsel for them, and they possess no understanding to reflect how could one of the nations, purest of 1,000 of Israel, were it not for the rock that sold them, for their rock is not like our rock. From here, he explains all as I have already explained until the end. Nechemiah expounds it, referring to the nations as follows: for they are a bewildered nation. Nechemiah, the Rebbe would say, Nechemiah is named Nechemiah because he consoles the Jews. He talks about all the negative, not on the Jews, but actually on the nations in the world, whatever they have done to the Jews. For they are bewildered nation, as explained in the original, until yet now our enemies judge us. And he continues, for the vine is the vine of Sodom, the vine of the nations is the vine of Sodom. Their seeds are from the fields of Sodom and Gomorrah, because they are debased. They are not careful to credit the greatness to me. The grapes are grapes of bitterness, refers back to the earlier statement. Were it not for the anger of the enemy, is penned up against Israel to poison them and to embitter them. Therefore, their cluster deserves to be bitter, to make them swallow them, measure for measure. All the tzadis that they gave Yidden, they was going to bring upon them. But they have did this to my children. Hamas tinim yenam, their wine is like venom of dragons. It is ready to be given to them to drink for what they have done to Israel. Store it away with me. This refers to the cup of wine. As it says, for this cup is in the hand of God. Le'eis tamad raglam. When their foot falters, this means it's similar that it says before, the foot will trample it. Yadin Hashem Amei, he is using a sense of for. Here, Yadin denotes that it chastises, but it doesn't mean chastise, but it means, for I will plead their case against their oppressors. I will judge them. Yiras ki zulas yad. The Holy One, blessed be he, sees that the hand of the nation is steady, bearing strong upon Israel, and no one amongst them is saved by a ruler or fortified. And he says, he also sees that enemy is saying, where is their God? Meaning of Israel, as the wicked Titus said when he pierced the curtains of the Holy of Holies. He said, my enemies will see, and he covered and shamed. Who has said to me, where is God, your God? Oh, Kiata Ani Hashem, see that I am then the Holy One, blessed be He, will reveal His salvation and say to the nations, see now that I, meaning that it's from me that the evil came upon Israel. It's not you. It is from me that the good will come upon them, not you. When then you describe to the power of your worthlessness, worthless deities and yourself. Ash says, no one can deliver from my hand. It means that there's no one who can save you from the evil that I will bring upon you. Ash said the phrase is equivalent, kinasasi, I've raised. Meaning I've also rested my divine presence in heavens. As Uncle's translated, even when the weakling is above and strong, and a strong man below, the fear of the upper one is upon the lower one. And all the more if the stronger man is above and the weakling is below. Yadi means the location of my divine providence. As ish al yadai, each man in his place. Thus the verse means, since my presence is above, I could have not the exact punishment from you earlier, but I said I live forever. I'm not in a hurry to exact punishment, but I have time to do so. Since I live forever, I will exact punishment from them in the later generations. As it's written, my power to exact punishment from the living and from the dead alike. A king of flesh and blood who's going to die is in a hurry to take revenge and punish during his lifetime, since perhaps he or his enemy will die, and thus he'll never experience the vengeance toward him. But when I live forever. And if they die and I did not exact punishment during the lifetime, I'll exact punishment in their death. Im shanesi berak harbi. There are many instances the word im is not connected to the meaning if. Here it means when I sharpen my sword, so it glistens, and my hand will take hold of judgment, as explained above. So it's not if, it is when. That completes the Chumash for today. Now go to the Tanya of the day. We're still in the 20th letter of the Alter Rebbe. Alter Rebbe now goes on to say that when the radiance descends in the third manner, is manifest only in creatures of the lower order, those deriving from the element of earth. This element being the lower than the element of fire, which we explained there's 4 elements to the world: water, air, fire, and earth. The lowest level is earth. And it's mainly within the physical earth that the divine power creating Yesh Mayim is revealed. Hakol min haaretz. It says everything comes from the earth. We live off the earth. The earth actually also shows infinity because it continues to give. The power derives from the Ein Sof. It is primarily found in the encompassing light that is revealed through Kava, the inner light. This becomes apparent in the ability to earth to make things grow. The physical growth of vegetation matter for spiritual power of growth found in the earth is clearly demonstrated of a yes resulting from an ayin. So that's why emes me eretz titzmach. We see the truth of everything from the earth because the earth shows that it comes. How's a tree come from the earth? How is that possible? It's like a yesh mayin. It's like something that came from nothing. Unlike things which once created simply reproduce, the earth continuously continues to reveal its creative powers, Baruch Hashem, of a Yeshvan and Ayin. Thus, through the radiance within the earth, is merely a radiance of a radiance of a radiance, because it's the lowest level, it's the doiming, the most lowest level in creation. Nevertheless, demonstrates God's creative power, because it comprised both encompassing light and the light of Kav, Sefer Kolam, which activates the power of the encompassing light to create and animate created beings. And that's what we learn from the earth. Alter Rebbe also explains the distinctive power described above was revealed specifically within the earth, because the earth is the lowest element of oil. The beginning is wedged in the end. I explained above, it's specifically at the lowest level of creation that the rebounding light manifests the essence of the original illumination with superior intensity. So that's how the Alter Rebbe continues to explain these expressions that we learn in Chassidus, but not Schloss Meseifon, and everything comes to the earth, etc. Yes, okay, let's go to El. The Alter Rebbe says furthermore, in addition to what is mentioned above, mentioned the earth is a radiance of a radiance of a radiance, which descend into created beings utterly concealed, being then neither of Mahuth nor a Metzias of divinity. It's such a offshoot of an offshoot of an offshoot, so to say, like an expression of an expression of an expression, a light that reverberates from one to another, and nevertheless contains both the inner illumination of Kav, which is the light that comes through the aspect of Tzimtzum, a contraction, and the encompassing light. So it has an inner light. The Eibishter gave the power of the earth that has within it the inner life, and it has within it a light that is above it. Chala niska le'el, and all the above in a manner which both of these levels of illumination ultimately radiate within the created being. Demonstrates its power and ability in so much as godly radiation descends from Malchus of the world of Atzilus in the element of Pashut, this physical earth. In immense manifestation that the earth continues to give. Yes, surpassing that elements of fire and air and water that transcends it. So the earth goes above and beyond fire and air and water. Earth continues to give. Put down in the Gemara that the example water is that there's not any more water. Whatever the Eibishter created on the 6 days of creation, second day of creation, that's the water. It continues to recycle, but it's the same water. There's not a creation of new water, but earth continues to create. And so to everything else, air and fire. Shame because then also after that, wants to bring out the most important thing over here, that they don't have the ability to continuously, constantly bring forth something for nothing. Is say the offer, like the element of earth, Hamatzmiach Tamid, that continues to bring out yesh mi'ayin, something for nothing. Hein masavim, whether it's herbs or the trees, grass, etc., etc. Even those plants that result from sowing and planting are produced in a manner that resembles yesh mi'ayin. For the seed, or the seedling disintegrates, as we learned that the seed needs to disintegrate, needs to rot, and needs to become part of the earth to be able to come a tree from it. As the Gemara says, that there's a mazel, there's an angel on each blade of grass, the little angel destiny that strikes each herb and says, grow. The sages teach us there's no blade of grass below that doesn't have a mazel above, so to say, a mazel, an angel that strikes it and says, grow. Not seem then that additional to the earth's vegetational power there's another factor in its growth. That's only after you're saying that's not the earth. You're saying that there's an angel, but that's only after the earth gave out the blade of glass. Now the angel tells it to grow, but that the earth gives out a blade of grass, that alone is the power of the Eibush to put within the power of the earth an infinite concept. Once the plant exists as a created entity, it really has to grow. The tree has to produce fruit with a certain taste and so on. These stages are related to the mazel, are related to the angel. The angel's not telling the earth to create something. The angel's telling, as the Mishnah says, the angel's telling, and the Gemara says, the angel's telling the blade to grow. But the apple should taste like an apple. And it's only talking about for the small to big. Loss is pre called min pratis. And so too from small to large, or to bear fruits of its own particular species, that the apple tree will always taste like an apple. That's the Gemara says. Every apple has a malach, a mazel, that tells it tastes like an apple. Tzemach Tzedek, third Lubavitcher explains that the mazel sends forth an arousal to the power of growth that is found within the grass and trees, causing it to grow. The basic cause of growth, however, lies in the above-mentioned vegetative power that the Eibush gives in the earth. Elsewhere, the Tzemach Tzedek explains, so this is a deep concept. The above quoted smiting means that the mazel illuminates a particular tree or grass with its connected, causing it to draw its source and hence to grow even greater. So that's what it means. And when it says that the mazel, the Tzemach Tzedek says that the mazel or the angel hits the grass and says grow, it means that it awakens up the power within the grass that it should continue to grow. Before it actually sprouted, whom would the individual mazel of each particular herb ordain all the detail? Then it's not there yet. But that's the above mentioned concept, the vegetative property within the earth, which is a substantial and spiritual concept, a godly concept that God put in the earth. While the earth is physical. What then here is then the yesh v'ayim, explain the love, drive from the essence of Ein Seif. It finds expression in the earth. Why specifically there? Angels, Elamishum, the Ragle, the Kagnim, Mistayim, Taft, Zasir. Kabbalistic term. We say right now, the feet of Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon, as we learned times before, it's pre-mortal man. This is an expression of a man sitting on the chariot. The prophet, the prophecy of Ezekiel, that he saw a chariot upon the four animals, and he saw a man sitting upon it. That's in Kabbalah Adam Kadmon, and his feet were reached on the earth, it says. The feet, the lowest level of Adam Kadmon, the primordial thought that it encompasses all the levels of creation, concluded in the lowest degree of the nebulous world, the world of Asiya, and specifically the lowly element of earth within it. The below his feet, earth. Meaning, below the lowest level of Adam Kadmon radiates the infinite Ein Seif, which circles all worlds. The very place at which the ceases, the indwelling of divine illumination that permeates all the worlds, there begins the encompassing degree of divine light that transcends all worlds. Without any great interruption between them. Like Igule Adam Kadmon Levade, except for the Igulim of Adam Kadmon alone. So premortal thought of Adam Kadmon consists of two modes of illumination, which is called Yashar, straightness, permeating mode, and Ligulim, circling, transcendent mode. Where the former mode ceased, and there remains only the latter, which is absolutely infinity, like Ein Sof light that transcends the world, Igulim. There is found the absolute illumination of Ein Sof that transcends all worlds equally. So you have these two concepts, the concept of Yosher and Chayzer, Igulim, and both of them bring about this revelation ultimately in every physical thing. The beam of God that comes through Tzimtzum, the first Tzimtzum, there was a kav, a beam of light, culminates at the end of the feet of other God. That's where it reverberates. It radiates from above upwards. It reverberates from the earth in a mode of chayzer, a reflective light. As mentioned above, this is a light that rebounds upward with increased intensity from the surface, from the blocks, which blocks it further downward progress. Hence, for example, the atmosphere closest to the Earth's surface is warmer than the atmosphere in the altitudes which is nearer to the sun. While you go higher, I always wonder when you're in a plane, it says it's minus 60 degrees outside. The sun is shining. Why, when you go in a plane at 30,000 feet in the air, it gets colder? You're coming down the earth, it's boiling hot. You go up in a plane, the higher it gets, the colder it gets. Because the earth reverberates the sun. So yeah, the plane doesn't do that, the earth does that. The same way as the beam of the Kav that functions and is infused, the inner reaches all created beings in divine light. Where does essence? So that's why it says, Kim Shem Shemagen Hashem. That the sun is like is in a way is the analogy of the Eibishter Yud Kei Vav Kei, that it with as infinity reverberate from not from the higher worlds. Actually, the higher the world gets, they have the less of a real the essence of God. Where does God reverberate himself, his essence? Where does he truly reverberate? Where does where does it bounce off, so to say, stuff in this world? And that's why its expression by Chassidim was the Eibishter made from Ruchnius Gashmius. God made from the spiritual physical, we reverberate it back. And we take the physical, we turn it back to spiritual. And because that's why, because only we, not malachim, not angels, not souls in heaven, only we. It's up to us to make that to make that reverberation, that we bring it down and it reverberates backwards in even a greater situation. Like the investment, the clothes of Arach Ampim, of Kav and Arach Ampim, and the Abba Ima, the Chmis Chachma of Chachma and Bina, V'zeir Ampim in the 7 middays, 6 middays, Minukva and Malchus. The Atzilus of the world of Atzilus, Meir Ba'er Chayzer Malchus Atzilus. Also, in a way, that's why Malchus of Atzilus is called Earth, because it also reverberates in a certain way. The world is the ultimate response, but Malchus Atzilus also is considered a world, and it's also called Eretz. So too, Malchus Atzilus is what reverberates back. Or Malchus Atzilus brings Kesem Atalamayla. And Malchus is the world of emanation, is the spheres, if the spheres are considered from below upwards, and thus the category of Keser, as mentioned earlier in this letter. That Malchus Atzilus, where does it reverberate back to? It reverberates back to Keser of Atzilus. It reverts back to Atik. And that's the meaning. The beginning is wedged in the culmination. God to Malchus, this means the beginning of Keser, which is loftier than Chachma, is to be found within Malchus, the earth Lamaila. God to Kav, it means that the beginning of Kav is wedged in the culmination of feet of Adam Kadmon, which ends in the nethermost level of the world of Asiya in the element of earth. Since the purpose of Kav is to reveal divinity, The element of earth best reveals that aspect of God's infinity which expresses itself in creating Yesh Me'ayin, as the Alter Rebbe will conclude. And now you'll understand this. Now you'll understand the culmination of this beam of light that comes before even Tzimtzum. The Ein Sefer, which is infinite. Which ends in Kabbalah, it ends at the feet of Adin Kadmon, at the feet. So the prophecy is sort of feet sitting on the ground. Meaning when the feet of the lower level of Adin Kadmon descend into the interior of various levels, all the way down to the lowest level, the feet were on the ground. The element of earth at the lowest level of Asiyah. Meya Mimata, it comes back. It then radiates from below upwards. Chinas Eir HaNeshama, the Malchus of Asiyah goes back, first of all, to Malchus of the world of Asiyah. The Neshama Malchus. This light, the light of the Neshama, is in fact the lowest level of the spiritual within the world of Asiyah. For Asiyah is the lowest world. Malchus is the final sphere within Asiyah. And the 10 component spheres that comprise Malchus of Malchus is the lowest. Nevertheless, since it is, after all, the light of the Neshama, it actually divinity, as the Alter Rebbe goes on to the name Shulakus Mamish. This is all divinity as it leaves this world and it reverberates to the world of Asiyah, a spiritual world. The Malchus Tatzilus all comes about because all these worlds are interconnected. From Asiyah, from the world of Asiyah to the world of Yetzirah to the world of Bria, ultimately to Malchus of the world of Atzilus. There's this lowest level of light of the Neshama, which is in Asiyah. There's found the illumination of the final degree of Asiyah. That is, the created being is the final level. And this enables that the Ein Seif reveal its capacity for creating Yesh Me'ayin, as demonstrated in the above described constant growth of the earth. According to what is written in chapter 20 of Sefer HaGulgulim, which is brought on also in the beginning of Tanya. This radiance from the Kav of the infinite light of God is vested in the light of Atzilus in Asiyah. And then it goes down to Bria. Asiyah is the Malchus of Asiyah, of Atzilus. It's called Asiyah. And from there it comes down to the world of creation, the Yetzirah, and then to the world of formation, Sheba Asiyah, in the world of Asiyah. The Malchus Asiyah, and then from then to the category of the light of the Neshama of Malchus of the world of Asiyah. The Malchus Asiyah should be said other, and from this derives the creative power of the culmination of the vessels of Malchus of the world of action, the lowest degree of spirit of Asiyah within the elements of earth. Now you'll understand the statement, Tat Shea Aretz. Started by Morris, when the Eibishter said that ultimately through the Malchus of the world of Asiyah, God said, Tat Shea Aretz, let the world give forth its herbs. The Perlias Pearl Bekerev Aretz. Tat Shea Aretz. Not just let there be vegetation. No, Tat Shea Aretz. Let the earth give vegetation. I'm going to put within the earth something that is unlimited power. Faith being the source of the power of this statement, Tat Shea Aretz. Chinas ain't safe in an infinite mode. And it's not doing, and not only during the sixth day of creation. As it says, and it says, like the waters bring forth an abundance of creeping creatures. Statement says, let the earth bring forth living beings. Ever since one time, this happened over 5,000 years ago. The Eibishter said these statements. Let the earth, let the water give life. Let the earth give life. Every living being derives from one another. and not an extra nila from the earth or water. A chokhmah the malchus asiyah. This statement derives from the wisdom of the malchus of Asiyah. Shebezayim mei bereishit, during the 7 days of the beginning of creation. Hey, be'elam haza'er me'sepruch b'chesed chinam. The Eibishter showed a kindness, an unlimited kindness. That's the difference between creation and today. Even though creation started the whole process, but in the time of creation was chesed chinam, was a total free thing. There was no need of a person elevating anything from this world. Everything was there. So during those days, there was no spontaneous arousal initiating the world below in the form of a divine service on the part of a female recipient element, which is a human being, in order to elicit a reciprocal arousal from above. After these 7 days, however, God ordained that henceforth there must be first an arousal initiated from above. By the virtue of the gratitudes and unearned divine kindness of those first 7 days, each of the above quoted statements, let there be water bring forth, let the earth bring forth, effectively brought about an instant creation of external nilo yesh me'ayin. The statement, let the earth sport forth by conscience, operates constantly. That's what the Alter Rebbe said before, that there's a difference between the earth and everything else, because the earth constantly happens. The grass, Baruch Hashem, there's grass, and there's beautiful trees, and there's fruits come out of the earth, unbelievable amounts, Talmud constantly, Shana b'Shana, year after year. It's like that's a concept of an infinity, never ending. It doesn't make a difference how long this world will last. It's going to continue to give off vegetation. But there needs to be, it was not like the first day of creation. Because now, to be able to have a fruit tree, you need to have planting. So there has to be, the Eibusha showed, I'm in the earth, there's an unlimited power, but you're going to have to plant. There are going to be things you're going to have to plant. And you're going to have to fertilize, you got to water, etc. So there we show, by us, our Aveda, when we do an Aveda, gives the capability for the earth to give forth a tree. It doesn't make a difference. Even though it comes through a human being's work, and he's a farmer, and he plants, but really, it's still in Kameyash mind, because what the farmer does and what happens, what comes out is just not a connection between the two. Because a farmer can plow, how does he know, how is the possible trees that come out of a kernel? As we learned before, the kernel has to rot. So even if it does need avodah of a yid, does need avodah of a person, his service, response is like yesh ma'ayin. Truth is, so too, everything that a Jew does, even though everything needs an avodah, but the response is like yesh ma'ayin, something for them. The planted seed is no estimation whatsoever in relation to the fruit, nor the relation to the whole tree. This little garden, this little kernel turns into a tree. There's no comparison. This little kernel had to rot and turn into a tree. Where's the difference between fruits? Where's the difference between fruit and its source in a kernel? Mainly quantitativity, as the taste, for example, the difference between the kernel and the resulting tree is more quantitative. Both these criteria, then, the growth of the tree from the seed possesses the element of yesh ma'ayin. And so too when it comes to various species of seeds and vegetables and various parts of the grain, Thavis Meiz Garina, that hundreds of kernels should come into being from a single kernel, resembles yesh ma'ayin. So the respect to straw and spikes, which are so much more different from the kernel, from the parent kernel, and thus even more conspicuously comes yesh mi'ayin. In our Pedish idea, lost man nukvin, and even now these fruits that grow by the means of an elevation of mayim nukvim. What it means here is azriya, vanitia, by sowing and planting. And mishubachim ma'od ma'od, they're so much superior, better. It comes out much more better. You cannot eat a kernel. Well, this kernel, from this kernel comes out a beautiful, luscious fruit. And that's all comes from the earth that gives the capability for this thing. And from all this you can learn, you can all understand. We can understand the concept of the station of the supernal odors from the divine illumination that is drawn down the worlds of Bri and Tzir. Light that is drawn down in this world, in response to man's divine service, surpass by far the light that is granted through the arousal from above. As unearned gifts, that we should realize what we receive in response to our avodah is far beyond what we give. We receive an abundance in comparison to what we give. Which is the ultimate purpose of man, to do his avodah, to do his service. But he's like planting a tree. It's a big avodah. It's a lot of work. But ultimately, every farmer is worth all the work because the response is far beyond the work. The response is unbelievable. So too, it's correct. Abraham can give the light of God to the world without any avodah, but the response is far greater. And therefore, the Abraham wanted avodah v'yid, because you should be able to learn this concept. You should be able to experience this concept through his avodah, through his, so that's like a farmer, through his planting, comes out something that is greater quantitatively and qualitatively. It's just unbelievable. There's no relationship between this kernel and this delicious apple or whatever you're eating. And look at that, for one kernel, I have thousands of apples. So my work is no comparison to but the response is so too. We should realize that through our actions, that we create this hamshacha, we bring down this light and create a reverberating light. The response is far beyond the action that we do. As explained elsewhere. Friends, today is the 11th day of the month, which is chapter 60, chapter 68. The Rebbe writes today, the Yom. In Kippur, we begin Hashem's Mali. This is no. Today's not the 10th. Today's 11th. I'm sorry. Yeah, today's 11th day. So until is chapter 60, chapter 65. The Rebbe writes in the Yom, Friday, beginning of Yom Kippur, at the conclusion of Kippur in the year 1795 in Liyazna, Alter Rebbe delivered a public discourse. The discourse was brief, as usually then, on the verse, who is like the eternal, our God, whenever we call upon him? On which the sages comment upon him and not upon his attributes. Hadis Imayim, it's a book on Kabbalah, explains that upon him refers to the oidus, radiance, illumination, as they are invested in the vessels of the 10 Sfiros of Atzfilas. The Rebbe the Baal Shem Tov said that upon him refers to godhood, invested in the vessels of the 10 Sfiros of Atzfilas. The simple meaning is upon him refers to the essence of Ein Sof, of which every ordinary Jew has an inherent knowledge through his simple faith. This is the meaning. Kol HaKod of Elav, any meaning of close to him, to the person. And whatever we call upon him, God, These two expressions refers respectively to the essence of Eden Seif, the essence of the soul. Davening with simple faith joins the essence of the soul with the essence of the infinite, so that the essence of the Eden Seif will be the healer of the ill, and he will bless the years. Heavy Tanya and a heavy Ayom Yom. I want to wish you all a wonderful Shabbos. Mit Shem will come together on Sunday, 8 o'clock. We'll continue to learn Itasot. Have a wonderful and beautiful Shabbos. I hope that everybody is getting ready for Yontiv. Maybe all Mansim Chasenu go into time of joy. Maybe then may the Eibush, may God bring joy. Jews around the world, my friend. We all need joy.